Hello, I'm George Herbig, Chief Forecaster, here with Weather Now, Kentucky, and a historical weekend is on the way for the state here, not only for us, but for Tennessee, as well as a high risk of excessive rainfall will lead to river flooding and as well as very dangerous flash flooding. So, no real spiel here with you. Let's go ahead and dive into the video, get into the meats and potatoes on what to expect here, when to expect the worst, and so on and so forth. Don't forget to hit the like button on the video and subscribe to the channel for more information. So here on your screen now is the excessive rainfall outlook from the National Weather Service's Weather Prediction Center. And it does show a 5 out of 5, which is a high risk for western Kentucky, at least a 70% chance to see excessive rain. A 4 out of 5, which is still a significant risk. Risk does exist in this red area, basically covering the majority of Kentucky. And then a 3 out of 5 risk does exist in this yellow zone as well. So even if you're in the lower zones in Kentucky, I don't want you to see this and think, oh my goodness, okay, thank gosh. Like, for example, if I'm in southeastern Kentucky, if I'm seeing this, I don't want to get any false hopes that the rainfall may miss us. You're still going to see significant rainfall. It's just in that pink or purple zone, which may be expanded just a bit to the northeast, just a bit. Again, I think it's really well placed for now. But could we see this expanded? Maybe. But again, I think for now it's really well placed. At that pink or purple zone, you're talking about the potential for up to 7, 8, maybe even 9 inches of rainfall. That is a significant. I cannot stress to you enough. That is a significant amount of rainfall, really within a 24-hour period. The bulk of that will actually come down within an 18-hour period. That is, to give you some context, 9 inches of rain, for example, would equate to about 90 inches of snowfall. That's how much liquid we're talking about here, all coming down very fast. So not only are we talking about the potential for river flooding for those bodies of water that are already high, we're talking about the potential for even low-risk flood zones, the potential for flash flooding to occur, as rain will really have nowhere to go. Remember, our ground is already saturated. We've already seen 200% more rainfall than we usually see by this time of year. Our ground is so unbelievably saturated, rain is not going to have anywhere to go. So that obviously increases the concern for flash flooding as well as river flooding. And I know a lot of folks hear flooding and don't really get too concerned about it. It's just rain, it's just water, right? Talking about this level, there's levels to it. And talking about this level, it's very, very, very concerning. And you'll see why. It's been forecasted so hard, not only by us, but by the National Weather Service and all of the outlets out there. So what I want to show you now is the latest model data. And I'm going to look at a few things here, so kind of stick here with me, because I want to explain why this is happening. Very unusual things to occur in February here. What I want to show you first here is our lower level jet, as this thing gets rocking to the east, is actually going to set up very parallel to the axis of moisture or the warm front. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow just north of this lower level jet for that rain to really just stay there for hours and hours and hours and keep building and keep building and keep building. And it's over the same areas that's not moving. It's called a stalled boundary at that point. Advancing this forward, I do want to show you, again, north of this front is basically, well, north of this yellow that you see, to the top of this yellow that you see on your screen. That's where those heaviest rains are going to be. And again, this could wiggle a little bit. This is just one model run. But I just want to show you for simplicity purposes. And then I want to show you the most unstable cape. Now, typically during this time of year, we don't really see a whole lot of this. This is typically saved for those springtime storms. But I want to show you, as we get that rain to come moving in here, late or early Saturday going into all day Saturday and on a Sunday, that most unstable cape does creep up into Kentucky, and it's not a whole lot. It's only about 300 to 600 joules per kilogram, but that is enough to cause heavier rainfall rates. Mixing with that is going to be something called precipitable water, aka PWATs. Typically, those are pretty low for this time of year as well, unless we get some type of moisture from the Gulf, which is what we're receiving here. All right, and advancing this forward, I want to show you it really kicks up into Kentucky. I mean, it really, really does. I mean, these are PWATs that are north of an inch. And typically, once again, those only usually occur in the spring or summer. Maybe fall a little bit as those jet streams are wiggling around. But typically in February, we're very, very dry. We are way wetter. And this system in particular will allow for 1 to 2 inch per hour rainfall rates. That is a significant rainfall rate, one we typically don't see here in Kentucky. And so again, those three things mixing are what is the cause for what I'm about to show you here, which is an absolute mess of rainfall. I'm going to zoom into local view now so you can see those timestamps in the top left corner there. You can follow along. That's a date. That's the time is Central Time for you. I just want to kick this on forward to late on Friday going into Saturday. That's when the show really starts. So flooding won't really take place on the onset. You have to wait for a few hours. River flooding, if you're at a bigger body of water, will take even longer. Flash flooding can pop up at any time. But again, so for those of you that are asking about specific time frames, this isn't a pretty snowstorm or a thin line of severe weather. This is a very long duration event. So timings are generally just going to be issued as Saturday through Sunday. Very, very specific timings are not very possible when it comes to flooding. They can pop at any time. All right. So advancing this forward, this is valid for Saturday around around 9 a.m. Eastern time or so. You see all in Kentucky. Very moderate rainfall ongoing. As I lift this forward to Saturday afternoon and evening, that warm front's going to begin to shove those rains. Remember that lower level jet that we saw when we begin to try to move a little bit north and east there. And what that's going to do is create a stalled line of rain, heavy rains, ongoing in the same areas for hours and hours and hours and hours. And that is why we saw the high risk of excessive rainfall finally get issued. It was pretty much inevitable, but what they were waiting on was to see how far north that lower level jet would ride and to see where that axis of rainfall, continuous rainfall, will be. Because as you'll see here, southeastern Kentucky and even out toward eastern Kentucky, you're going to start to get a break. But it's the people that don't get a break. Those are the folks that are going to get the high risk of excessive rainfall. And if you look here as well, as that lower level jet gets coming in, as that most unstable cape that we showed you starts to kick into Kentucky, what it's going to do is increase these rainfall rates. You can see at the bottom of your screen here, that's purple and red. Those are extremely, extremely heavy rainfall rates, almost maxed out on the model data. I mean, very, very, very heavy stuff. Advance this forward to Saturday evening around 9 to 10 p.m. We might see a stretch in that warm sector, probably south of the parkways, where we could see a line of severe storms develop. At the least, it'll be strong. Sorry if you hear my dog. At the least, it'll be very strong with severe winds, maybe up to 50 to 60 mile per hour at times. And besides that, we also will see other wind gusts. I'll show you those here soon as well. Let's go ahead and get through the reflectivity first. And then by the late night hours on Saturday going into Sunday, the bulk of the rain will move out, but we have some backside stuff to worry about at this point. Now, this is lighter stuff. It's not as heavy as other stuff, but it is enough. You're talking about an areas that have already seen 4 to 6 inches of rainfall. Now you're talking about the potential for another inch or so. It's not going to help anything, really. And then by the time Sunday morning arrives to us, most of the rain will exit it. But you have to remember, the rivers, those larger bodies of waters, those will take time. So even though the rain is technically moved out on Sunday morning, now the river flooding is starting to really creep up at this point. Now we've gone past the flash flooding risk, and now we're going more toward the river flooding risk. So even though the rain may move out and calmer skies may enter, the threat is not over. The threat is not over. I want to show you the wind gusts that we're looking at as well. So let's go ahead and kick this on forward. This is about when the rainfall starts. Not too bad. And then when that lower level jet starts getting kicked in here in the afternoon, you'll see just to the south of that lower level jet some nice wind gusts to 35 to maybe even 55 mile per hour on Saturday in southeastern Kentucky. And then as the rain begins to ease up a little bit on the backside, those wind gusts really kick in. This is a strong front that we're looking at here. So not only do we have the rains to worry about, but the backside winds as we come into Sunday morning. 30 to 40 mile per hour widespread wind gust on already saturated grounds, on areas that just received 4 to 7 inches of snow, of rainfall. I'm still used to the snow here, of rainfall. You could see some trees start to get snapped at that point. Under a lot of stress with all that rain on the ground. The ground is very soft at this point. Not going to take very much, especially for smaller trees to get blown over. So could we see some power outages issues? Absolutely. Could we see some tree damage issues? Absolutely. Could we see trees falling onto houses? Absolutely. So a very dangerous event all around set up here in Kentucky. Not just for the rainfall, but the backside winds may be an issue as well. Here's the latest accumulation for rains. For this, again, this is one model run, but the trend has been for basically from Elizabethtown down toward Murray, Kentucky, that stretch there. That has been a continuous trend on the European model. It has been a continuous trend on this model. The NAM 3K is starting to trend toward this. The rapid refresh, you get my point here. All the models are starting to trend toward somewhere in central Kentucky, stretching back out toward western Kentucky and down to western Tennessee. Those are the areas where the heaviest rainfall may occur. I do want to point out that just because you may not be in those heaviest rainfalls. For example, out here toward Richmond, Kentucky, where Kentucky River is, you're expected to only see 3 to 4 inches of rainfall, but your river's already close to major flood stage. So even if you don't see the heaviest rainfall here, the river flooding may be a concern, especially for a lot of those folks that are already near those bodies of water that are already high. And you can look those up by just Googling current river gauges and so on and so forth. NWS has a lot of great info on that if you go to the Weather Prediction Center, so on and so forth. Or if you go to your local NWS office's website and click on Rivers and Lakes Forecast, good information there as well. So again, a lot of rainfall here. Not just the rainfall that we're looking at for flash flooding, but those river floodings may be the case as well. I do want to pull up now our current alert day, and we did make this right around 9 to 10 a.m. this morning. I issued it at about 11:30 this morning Eastern time. I don't really see any necessary changes to this. Again, the reason we have that pink blob near Danville going toward Richmond, Berea, and those places out there toward eastern Kentucky, again for the Kentucky River potential of flooding there. But a 5 out of 5 risk does exist from E-Town to Owensboro to Paducah to Murray, stretching toward northwestern Warren County. Key messages there: prolific flooding in isolated locations throughout the pink and red regions are likely. This flooding may interrupt everyday life and be potentially dangerous. River flooding may take a bit longer to occur, but flash flooding will be inevitable on Saturday, especially after lunchtime. Most rivers will go into moderate flood state at some point Saturday evening into Sunday. The Ohio will take longer. It's a larger body of water. We also don't expect that to go into major flood stage at this point because the rains will be just south of the Ohio, thank goodness. But we do expect it to at least go into a minor flood stage. Isolated severe wind gusts may be noticed off and on throughout the event. We mentioned that in the video as well. So more information on this on our Twitter and Facebook throughout the day. Guys, please stay tuned. Don't think it's just rain and this is not going to be a big deal. This is our biggest flood threat in Kentucky since 2022 in eastern Kentucky, where they saw those heaviest rains. And this may be a bigger deal because it's coming to areas that have not seen a flood threat really since the early 2000s. So again, pay attention to all the forecasting information, not only by us, but by your National Weather Service local offices. I'm George Herbig, Chief Forecaster. You're here with WNK. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'll catch you guys in the next one.